Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the one and only arcade, brought to you here by DBD, or should I say DBT, as we're actually going to be loading into a massive match here. I gotta say, I'm very excited to actually see what we're going to be seeing in this match alone, as here at Dead by Trials, we are definitely going to bring in a very interesting match. This is going to be Compassion versus Twisted Cat. Got actually back with proper, because every single time you load into OBS, everything wants to start out at the worst way possible, meaning that if you have to set it up on time, you have to set it up the worst way possible. But thankfully, now that everything's out of the way, welcome to Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst. We have a Trapper on mid-witch, which I'm actually very excited to see, considering how somebody did end up just walking into a trap, getting downed, and is now currently in basement. Of course, locked around the basement is going to be a bunch of traps, and seeing ninjas in chase right now near the courtyard is definitely going to be a hopeful result. I'm actually surprised they did not go for the tag there, but instead are going to go for a complete turnaround and go actually inside of... Oh, ninjas is going to run into a trap, and going back to hook, they are just going to camp and keep it here, at least until they can get second state. This is actually going to be very interesting because it seems like we're going to be looking at a decent result on Trapper, as somebody's going to be going to second state, and there's already somebody injured on the board, and depending on the build that this person is using, which it does seem like it's going to be deadlocked and corrupt, as we know so far, there is going to be a lot more here that I'm actually excited to see how it will turn out. With that being said, we're going back to hook just to camp it and actually put a trap not near the front, but I'd assume more towards the middle. Would you? We'll see. We'll see. We definitely will. But there is a good lockdown between this whole area, meaning that anybody just walking by here will have difficulty going through. It does seem like somebody's going to be taking a tag right now. Panda going in for the 1-for-1 as they're going to be going into basement. They do make it for the 1-for-1, but they will go down shortly after just because of it. Now, Hampter off of the hook right now is going to be chased all the way upstairs. Do they run upstairs into the trap? No, they do not. Instead, they're going to run all the way over here, which is actually going to be pretty bad if they go for the window, which they're actually about to go. Going down into the trap. That's going to be Hampter going down extremely early. Jake instead going to be taking now an injure due to Bloody Quail. This is some extremely amazing value out of such a slow game. My lord. Very surprised to see this so far. We are going to be seeing a basement hook as well on the survivor here. Panda is now going to be in the basement, and now the next victim to potentially die here easily, as these survivors have absolutely no chance of resetting. This is going to be taking chase right now. Core does understand that this is a chase that he can very easily take, and is going to not actually commit to it, but instead go back to where they catch Jake from a team that we did see before. If you didn't know, Jake was from Cruelty, meaning that they are from a very experienced NA team. They are going to pop the 3rd gen, realizing that this is probably going to be the end of the road for them. But it also seems like Jake is going to be getting a decent chase here. Now going to be blinding the killer, most likely going to be using that distance to get out through the correct way, but is no, instead going to run into the trap that Hampter unfortunately died to. It does seem like Core is actually about to get a 4K, considering the fact that I'm right now seeing an extremely powerful result, and Core is going to down ninjas on the stairs to go hook Jake at the top, go back and put ninjas in the basement. A 4K2 result for Trapper on Midwich versus such an experienced survivor team. This is not something you see quite literally at all. I am very surprised to be seeing this at all in any case. Jesus, and Core shakes and swings their weapon, knowing that they have gotten a very amazing result for their team. Now, of course, since this is pretty much a mirror set, or from what I'm so to believe, that also means that there is still equal opportunity and an equal chance for the killer of the other side, which is going to be Compassion, to, of course, have an amazing result as well. But we actually genuinely need to see how that goes, because this could very much be anyone's game at this point, considering how good Trapper is on Midwich, but you still do not expect them to get this good of a result in any way, shape, or form. So Twisted Catalyst is definitely going to be showing a lot of strength here, understanding that this is not a game to be playing around. But I do like what I'm seeing here, as every single trap is actually perfectly set for any situation, but we did not see most of them in use. Most of them were actually just accidentally placed down, whether by game sense or, should I say, just genuine knowledge. Because if you think about it, look at this trap right here. This is something that someone would certainly fall for. Oh well, but as we're going to be waiting for the survivors to finally die, which Ninjas is now going to be sacrificed. That is a 4K2 result for... I need my ref to go ahead and actually text me the score, because apparently the scorecard is going to act up in front of my face. Let's go ahead and see how that's actually going to turn out. We'll go ahead and move to our intermission while we figure out the score. So I will update you in the second game of the first set here at Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst, brought to you by Dead by Trials. But of course, we'll see you after intermission in these hopefully short messages.
Well, as we find time to move into the second match here at Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst with the very first set of this game brought to you by Dead by Trials. I almost ended up saying something else in the meantime, but of course, this is actually, we're figuring out now that this is actually a bit of a mistake with what happened in the first set with the score being incorrect, but thankfully we're able to fix that now, and we will bring to you the actual score, which I'm happy to see. The very first game did end up going with 24-6, or 28-6, should I say. So let's go ahead and actually move to the real match and quickly go to our killer so we can see the perspective of Compassion's killer, which is going to be Collins. Let's go ahead and actually move here and do this properly, as the score is still fucked up. Holy shit. But we are still now going to see the actual gameplay, which I'm happy to see still ahead of here. But let's go ahead and actually wait a minute. No, never mind. Pretty sure this is the one that's supposed to show. Let's see. Well, as I figured out, we're going to be seeing Collins going around the map, making sure to fix up a good few amount of traps just to go ahead of time and actually fix pretty good setup on this map. It does seem like people are going to be interrupted on the gen, and there's people going off across the map, going ahead to find a bunch of traps and, of course, to disable them. But it does seem like taking chase with auto to 8 seconds here at the top side of the map is going to take a quick hit and now go down towards Piano Room. Not going to go inside, but instead going to go off to the right into 12B. Now moving over towards... that was balanced, I could definitely tell. You cannot get that much distance off of this, but he can dare safely play this pallet. This pallet is impossible to lose 50-50s on. At least you should not be able to lose a 50-50 here. But they are going to be building Bloodlust, and of course, with Otto not expecting this to happen, is going to go down instantly as Collins finally commits to a side. That is going to be the first stick of the game, which is not going to be as fast as Twisted Catalyst's killer, but is still a pretty good pace considering Trapper is a very, very weak killer. But it also does seem like we are going to be seeing the use of Undying Haunted Grounds. This is not something you see quite literally at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is going to be something horrifying for these survivors, that they just see that they are now going to be exposed, and Colin is going to be chasing Abraxel, meaning that Abraxel has to last for as long as possible without going down in one shot. They do have a pallet here to work with, but they're going to drop it on the wrong side and instantly go down. This is not looking good here for our survivors here at Twisted Catalyst, and it seems like Compassion is going to be bringing the heat, but they are still keeping the pressure on the generators and, of course, matching this result. And all they have to do is pop 4 gens, and they can get away with this game. Or should I say this set alone, as we're actually going to be seeing a bit of difficulty here from the killer.
They're going to be resetting these traps, meaning that this whole area is going to be locked down at least a little bit. I'm pretty sure he can still walk past that one, as he did just there past the pallet. But I would also assume that we're going to be seeing, it seems like 2. Cannot figure out that guy's name, but Renato is going to be chasing as far as he can away from the hook, and probably just going to be keeping it here for as long as possible. Does seem like Colin is going to be opting to break the pallet as early as possible, and now is going to be going around to try and zone him off. But getting a lot of value out of Ruin here, and also a lot of value out of another perk that I'm about to see. 2 is going to take a hit now early, and they're going to be going back to the gen to pressure it. Does seem like they are going to get a bit of distance on top of Otto, who is going to be their tunnel out. They're going to have to run past this trap, which they do end up doing, understanding that it is going to be there, and seeing that is an opportunity to at least loop the killer around. Now, I would say taking a hit here would be kind of unnecessary, but Otto does need to take the chase away from the generators and at least take a hit to bring it to a safer spot, which is a safe and a smart decision by both ends, as Colin is actually going to be using this opportunity to chase the tunnel out and is actually going to win a 50-50 that does end up putting them ahead on the down. Good pacing by Colin right now, as they're going to not break the pallet just yet, but now going to hook Otto as fast as they can. Most likely going to be ignoring the pallet and going back to pressuring generators, as I did predict just now. But do they have enough time? Yes, they do. They are going to interrupt too, but it does also worry me that there could potentially be a person on the gen over here in front of us. No, there is not, as it is still going to be regressing, and now we're going to be completely cutting off 2. We do see the scratch marks there, which is going to mean that they are extremely close by, and 2, not seeing him ahead of time going around is going to unfortunately go down. Gotta say, very well played by both sides though, as that was a good chase that did lead away from the hook, but they are still losing ground here, as Twisted Catalyst needs to start popping these generators, otherwise they are going to lose this set. We're going to be seeing the power of the very second thing. Oh boy, this next perk is definitely going to be something extremely detrimental to the gameplay of these survivors, as 2 people are going to drop down on top of them. Otto's going to go down instantaneously, not due to Haunted Grounds, but instead Devour Hope. It is going to be revealed to the survivors. Abraxel is now being slugged towards, as he's running out of distance, is now unfortunately going to go down despite trying to drop, but no, getting trapped there and running into the trap. Either way, getting stuck on the hook there was definitely not the play for Colin, but it did not matter, as Abraxel still goes down. 2 hooks back to back, as now we're slowly going to be working to our 5 stacks, which is definitely going to be something very horrifying for these survivors. They need to find this perk quick, and they have an opportunity to do so, but there are still so many lit totems on the map that could potentially be haunted, only doubling down on their exposed status effect, which would be certainly horrible. And there are so many perks, including Ruin, that is just protecting this Devour totem. This is not looking good whatsoever. Now, of course, they could also have the opportunity to grab the totem 1 out of 3, unless it is already taken care of. We're going to have to go ahead and see, because I'm not exactly sure. And I do believe, actually, yes, it has been taken care of, 2 of them, at least. Most likely, Devour is out, because honestly, when it goes out like that, I would expect it to be like that when he's closer to the hook. There are 2 perks, or sorry, should I say 2 totems remaining, that not only is Ruin gone, wait, no, Devour is still in play. There are 3 totems now, currently up. Now going to be seeing Abraxel in chase at a very, very unfortunate time, but setting down the trap here was, wait a minute, that's not going to be Abraxel, instead that's going to be Renato, taking a very quick down and not realizing that as he was putting down the trap, he probably could have ran towards the window. We will still be seeing as well Colin grabbing a good amount of stages. 1 more gen cannot pop, otherwise they will go to a tie, meaning that whoever takes the next game will be the winner, or at least as it should in multiple competitive leagues, but anything could happen here. This isn't technically a league just yet, but this is a solo tournament, meaning that everybody needs to get settled in to see how it will last. It is going to be Char taking chase, who is going to be our ace. Now bringing it towards the hook side, but still the hook is actually not on top, but it's still on the bottom, meaning that this is definitely an unfortunate chase to be taken, but they are going to make use of their slight mistake with the distance that they do have. It does seem like they are not going to make this pallet, but it will be close. No, they're not going to take it. A good greed by Char, as the chase was taken away from the hook, meaning that there's somebody going over to grab the save very quickly, dropping the pallet now, going to be winning a quick 50-50. A second one, not even to his name, but he cannot go there. This is a complete unfortunate thing. Wait, I would be abusing that. He just double backed. Oh, but he just walked through and Ace instantly goes down. Honestly, I did not expect that to work out. Going directly for the slug. Abraxel is definitely going to have to stealth here. There's a lot of progress on this generator, and they did try to commit to it to pop it, but we're not able to make it. And breaking ahead of time just in case if any sneaky plays do end up happening here was definitely a good play. But I feel like leaving Renato to die on hook kind of threw their game there, considering how that did not work out. Who knows? That gen honestly could have been just a great skill check away. But now we start the lookout for Char, as Char's probably going to be crawling around looking for Hatch. Let's go ahead and see where they did end up going. And Char's completely gone. And out here by Char, who I do believe is going to be completely fresh, is going to be very detrimental. Oh, but unfortunately the Hatch was all the way across the map, and they were not able to make it there in time whatsoever, considering where they were downed and where they were crawling. Now we're going to be looking around and starting the wild hunt for Char, but it does seem like this is going to be a bit interesting considering how long this could take on such a map like Midwich. Although it's not as big as the others, there are still some pretty amazing hiding spots on this map that could very easily serve to destroy the survivors. Or should I say both, honestly, because waiting here for a long time would definitely be annoying for both sides. Although one will be getting a benefit out of the other from what I believe a bleed out is going to be losing points, it is still not going to be very nice, and I am very afraid to go check on the survivor, as anybody simply looking at the stream, since there is technically no delay, can very easily see where this survivor is. But I want to leave it to Colin to look out for the survivor on themselves, and of course to potentially find it. But it does seem like at this point Compassion has taken the, at least I won't know until they find Char. Char's completely fresh. Remember, if they lose all of those points, this is not going to be good for Compassion, and I do believe they still lose. If they lose all these points, that is still a loss by 1 point. That would be extremely soul crushing. But of course, they always have the second step to make up for this very unfortunate loss if they do end up doing so. So still looking for Char is going to be very, very hard, as Colin is going to be double backing on themselves continuously, probably doubting where they have checked, but is now going to make some distance on top by breaking the leading stairway up towards bathrooms, and is now going to be moving towards this top side of the map to try and find the survivor. Now I do believe due to the time they might be just bleeding out instead of being sacrificed to the entity, but of course once the final seconds are remaining, let's go ahead and check on where our survivor is, of course once that comes around. But I do believe this might potentially just be a bleed out, as Char's hiding spot seems to be way too good, and it seems like Colin might just be checking in the wrong places continuously. Oh my lord. We still cannot find this survivor. Let's go ahead and quickly check. And it seems like he was in library of all the time. And due to continuous movement in the same spot, he is still developing crows, but he bleeds out no matter what. Now, does that lose them points due to the rule set, or does that give them the full kill? We will have to see in this final score, which still has not been updated for us, which is annoying as hell, I'm not going to lie to you. So we'll definitely figure that out in the next game once that comes around. But let's go ahead and see what the final score was. I want to go ahead and take a look at these perks actually, as I'm actually kind of interested considering that there are 4 exhaustions allowed versus the Trapper, but there was not much progress made due to the compactness and of course confinement of the map, which means that there's going to be a lot of difficulty. They did not run Bloody Coil though, but they instead ran Trapper Bag, which I actually like to see. Very much so like to see that. Well, while we wait for the final score to be given to us, this has been Dead by Trials, and we will see you guys in the very next set of this game here, Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst, after our intermission in these hopefully short messages, which by then you will be able to enjoy some regular gameplay of potentially a different killer. But it is very interesting to see Trapper nonetheless in competitive of all places. But of course, once I said it again, you'll see you guys in the next set. Here we are now back in live here at Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst, brought to you by Dead by Trials. And we are actually here with the second set of this very, very fateful match, which is actually going to be resulting in a very, very weird score, which of course was kind of wrong of how I originally considered it, considering how I did believe that it was probably going to be a 1-point difference if the person did end up bleeding out, but that would have been the case if the hook states counted 1 for each, but that is not the case. Is actually the hook states are more and more. I did not understand the point system, and of course I got it confused with actually a different tournament. But with that out of the way, with a final score of 27 to a big amount, but we're actually going to be loading into our match here, so let's go ahead and quickly see, as we're actually going to be seeing an injure on the survivor pretty early with Michael Myers on Midwich. I'm very, very enticed and actually kind of excited to see what is going to happen here, but with an actual final score of 32 in the side of Twisted Catalyst and 27 to Compassion. Not something you would expect, but of course Twisted Catalyst, should I say, has brought a lot to the table and is definitely showing a lot of experience and practice, of course, as these people are typically considered to be the underdogs. They are definitely putting their number up against such an experienced team like Compassion. Going to be chasing Otto here and grabbing a bit of stock off of him as well, but now Otto is not going to be chased, and instead it's going to go back to 2, who is also going to be Renato taking the chase here at this weak filler. It could very potentially be strong, considering how Michael is not exactly the best M1 killer, but still building up a lot of stock off of the survivor could very easily get a massive snowball. Now going to be dropping. Colin is going to take that stun, but still going to grab as much stock as possible before breaking the pallet. Is now going to take the kick on the generator. Good bit of a first exchange, as we're going to be seeing pressure on 2 survivors, and not only that, but another one grabbing in a tear up, but now we're going to be seeing a bit of a not a tag just yet, as now we're going to be bringing up our tier 3, and they do not make this pallet, as now they're going to be running as fast as they can over towards it, but not enough distance is given to them, and Colin takes the down, now going to tier 3 and getting a pretty good first hook, leading into their second perk. But a gen still does pop under that chase, meaning that 2 is going to have a pretty decent stride. Auto to 8 seconds is now going to be found. There's still some tier 3s to be used here, but it does seem like Colin is instead not going to chase after that, and instead going to go check on Courtyard, which is a tiny bit of a mistake, as they did end up dropping, but no one's going to pressure a hook with a tier 3 survivor. Or should I say, no, tier 3 survivor? What am I talking about? This is not a survivor. This is a complete killer. The shape and embodiment of evil, Michael Myers, also known as the Shape by DBT players most of the time. But it does seem like, due to being zoned completely, Otto is actually going to go down here. Do they make this pallet? And unfortunately they do not, as they're going to go down, and Otto directly under the pallet and seeing another survivor. Colin's actually going to be going for the slug completely, vaulting down to catch up to the survivor. A very quick vault. I can't tell if that's a perk or an add-on or anything, to be honest with you. But Core is going to be pressured here, as they're not actually going to have legitimately anything to be worked with. 2 is going to be saved off the hook, meaning that they're going to be going over to get the pickup on to Otto. But Core is going to go down here very shortly, meaning that the pressure is still on the survivors in a very massive amount. Colin realizing that they have lost a bit of pressure here, considering how the survivor was saved from the hook. And it does seem like they're actually not going to be picking Otto up just yet. Never mind. Caster's Curse going to be hitting me like a truck, as Otto does stand up, thankfully, to our survivors here, who are probably going to be resetting, as they do see that the killer is now in tier 2, but there's still a bit of stock to be used here, and Otto actually seen running away. It does seem like they're either going to be resetting by themselves or not resetting quite literally at all. And in fact, they're not going to be resetting at all, because we did just see Otto to 8 seconds run away from this generator, and it does seem like there was somebody working on it that missed the skill check, meaning that there is another person here. Colin now going to be completely trying to cut them off, is actually going to get that, but due to sprint burst, they are not going to get enough distance, and they're going to pre-drop this pallet. They do not have a window or anything to work with, meaning that they are going to have to stay here and win a few 50-50, but unfortunately they are not, as it does seem like Colin is going to get a quick hit through the pallet, and Renato goes down. Is that Calm Spirit, as we do not hear any? Is that Calm Spirit Iron Will? I did not hear any scream from the survivor, and I can certainly tell it was probably not a spectator bug. But the difference is they are actually going to get their Pop Goes the Weasel as if it wasn't seen before. So we're now going to be dropping down on top of this bathroom just to quickly check up on these generators. And it does seem like there is a bit of progress on this one, but it doesn't seem like it would be worth for the kick, considering that Pop Goes the Weasel removes a pretty good chunk of the gen. But Colin does not care and is still going to kick the gen anyways, as pressure and keeping these generators at 0 is of utmost importance to him. Especially with the build that they have, I actually kind of understand this, considering how you would want to get as much eruption pressure across these survivors as much as possible, meaning that multiple gens will be reset, and if somebody goes down without calling it, people will scream and be revealed. Good mind game by Colin is going to keep them there, but not going to end up in the down. Senza's now going to be using this distance to completely run away from the pallet. A smart choice and a good decision. But instead of playing this pallet here at Courtyard, he's going to use the distance to make it to God Room, where they can see... No! Instead, we're going to be W-keying completely and now going to be pre-dropping this pallet. This is a pretty decent loop to use, as if used correctly could very easily destroy these survivors, but unfortunately, due to a bit of a... What the hell? Due to a bit of a non-prediction there from Senza, they are going to go down, but it's almost Pluto Tech the hit, as they were not being aimed at properly, but they did end up getting hit with the last second of the animation, meaning that they will be going down and will be on the very next hook. This is a very, very slow game, as I did just realize with how long these chases have been, thanks to the pressure and use of the perks that Colin is running, there is not going to be any gens popping soon at all, completely. And thanks to the use of not only that, but now Pop Goes the Weasel going on this high progress gen, which did end up hitting 50% and now pushing 60, is going to go down. The person is now going to potentially run into the killer. No, they're going to hold this check spot here and of course see ahead of the killer, but Colin is just going to be using the survivor for stock. A pretty good decision, I'm not going to lie, considering how this is a completely fresh survivor. They're going to get a bunch of stock off of that, but they're not going to quite get to tier 3. Not just yet. Not going bathroom, but instead going back around. Bit of a hesitation there from Colin, as we did just see, but they are not going to fret just yet, as they are not going to let them reach this God pallet, not without getting a bunch of stock, completely 99, pretty much 98%. Just a little look-see here is going to put him into the tier 3 state, and now they're rushing up to the survivor as fast as they can just to guarantee it. With the survivor dropping down right now, that has to be balance landing, which it is going to be using balance landing. They're not going to have any pallets here just to work with, but they are going to have this God pallet here earlier, which they're going to pre-drop. A pretty good play done by Corrosive, as they're actually going to get out of this scot-free. I do like to see a bit of risk coming through from the survivors, and they do get the reward, but of course that does not mean any good for our killer. But still, that could very easily not mean good for the survivors, as well as he's actually going to be leaving and using the rest of his stock to potentially pressure these survivors off of gens. A tier 3 Myers, although they're an M1, is still scary. The pressure of that one shot could very easily make people crack under pressure, even competitive players, especially if they do something good, which, if you haven't realized, which happens in most comp games, or should I say any game in general, even a pub match, is when people win multiple 50-50s or completely demolish a killer, they're going to get ahead of themselves, or they're going to get very shaky and nervous and then try to do a play to guarantee something ahead of time. But unfortunately, it never works out in almost any way, shape, or form. Wasting a bunch of stock here. Now we're actually going to be going towards auto to use. Very end of their tier 3, they get the hit, but they do not get the down. Very last second. Auto must be shocked. They're still going down, but that time being wasted was immeasurable. Auto 8 seconds is now going to go down, but this is a very, very good game for Twisted Catalyst, as they did just pull around this very slow performance that they were being forced into due to the pressure, knowledge, and perks of Colin. But now we're actually going to be completely catching up to 2, taking a quick hit on him, as they are now going to be running and not going to be committing to them whatsoever. Instead, going to be going over to this gen and grabbing the tag onto the Ada, which Corrosive is now going to have to be careful, as they're in a complete dead zone. Now going to be taking a hit. Not going to commit to them, but instead going to be going back to the gen and using Pop Goes the Weasel and Eruption to affect this generator. Of course, Eruption is going to be pretty useful here, considering how if somebody does go down, which there are 2 injured survivors and now 3, but of course not until 12 seconds later. And it does seem like with what Colin is doing, they will have an opportunity to quickly grab that hit later, but they still need to focus on the reset, as survivors are running out of stock to be used on, meaning that this killer might just become a full M1. Swinging through the pallet here and not going to be... Oh, dude's going to be chasing Senza. I did not expect him to stay at that pallet on that side, but now grabbing a bunch of stock on Senza through the courtyard. Is now going to be going back to these generators that were being pressured. There's not enough pressure on this one to be worth kicking, but there is definitely going to be a lot of pressure on this one, as now we're actually going to be seeing Core taking chase, forced into the bathroom, meaning that they will most likely die here unless they make some very, very good decision or play around this stall. But it seems like that hesitation was extremely powerful for Colin, as now they're going to be grabbing this down, meaning that the gen is going to be regressing and going down instantly. 7%. Core goes down, meaning that Eruption is now off on top of the generator, but there is still way too much going on for such a weird, well, should I say unpowerful? Should I say less strong killer? I wouldn't say Myers is weak, but definitely is not up there when it comes to the A tiers, B tiers, and the S tiers. Using Pop Goes the Weasel, and the perfect use of Eruption on that gen is going to affect it at the last second. And of course, Pop Goes the Weasel is going to go off, but now we're going to be seeing two survivors right now, grabbing all the way up towards the 99 stock. Is now going to hold it until the perfect opportunity to go ahead and chase the survivor. Now going to be affecting this one with Eruption once more, and is still not seeing any progress here from the survivors, but there is still a lot of pressure being spread throughout the entire map. Colin could very easily get a 4K here before all two gens pop, but there's a good gen spread for these survivors, and it will still be difficult for Colin to do so. We do see Auto to 8 seconds running over towards 6, and it's going to be pre-dropping the pallet completely, actually finding Zenza in the bush, which was a big mistake. Honestly, I would have tried to play that if I were them, but of course, that is not going to work out in Senza's favor for trying to stealth in the bush. Could have been a good play if they ended up getting away with it, but of course Colin's game sense does understand that the survivor could very easily just be sitting in the bush. Now that is actually going to result in a down, and not only that, but another Pop Goes the Weasel and a use of Eruption on one of these generators. Colin is going to be quickly moving over to this gen, which has certainly a lot of progress, and especially with these survivor scratch marks being nearby, we can definitely tell that there was somebody in the area. And with this being said, 20% on this gen can be seen, and it is now completely gone thanks to Pop Goes the Weasel and Eruption. Oh, Lord. But we are also going to be seeing the survivors. There's going to be Corrosive and Senza taking chase. Who does Colin commit to? And it seems like we're going to be chasing Corrosive completely, as this entire side of the map has been used. There is one pallet that stands up, but they do not have enough distance to make it, and they don't even go for the one that was even closer to them. But they're instead going to try and make it to this one, which they do unfortunately not, as now they're going to go down, and Colin's going to get an instant pickup and the very first death of the game. I spoke too soon, as we're going to be seeing the use of Decisive Strike completely against Colin. This is going to work against them massively, as now Senza has to, or is actually completely getting away. Colin going down to pressure this generator once more, knowing that there's, honestly, I probably would have committed to Senza there, but that was a pretty strong loop that they were at. And 2 is not going to be pressured whatsoever, but instead going to take an M1, as they did unfortunately not have enough tier 3 to last this long. But thanks to the use of an add-on, it does seem like he is going to get a bit of it back. Maybe he has one last tier 3 use to be used here, but with 2 gens in courtyard, I wouldn't be honestly lying if I would say that this is almost a completely perfect setup. Swinging through that pallet to try and hit Corrosive, but is not going to be able to get it, not in time, as Corrosive is actually going to get away completely scot-free and get a lot of pressure for these survivors on the generators. Still going to be grabbing a bunch of stock on top of him. Not going to be trying to starve him at all of any stock, but is still going to get enough distance, and of course cut away at the final second once they can, to of course not zone themselves in any way, shape, or form. But it does seem like Colin is now going to revert back to the gen kicking strategy, which they did make use of earlier. But I honestly would have to say this is a very, very good 4-gen. And with that being said, we do find 2 completely out of position, not expecting the killer to come here and check him directly, but they are still going to go down, doing a pretty good locker fake. Now they're going to be waiting another 2. 2 swings come through, as they ended up slow vaulting and now forcing the pick. A good play, as they're going to be wasting time, but still there's people going to be affected by these generators. Not only by Eruption, but also by Surge, as now we're going to be running over to this generator with Pop Goes the Weasel to reduce it down to a measly. That is so much progress on that gen, and it is going to be destroyed. But wait, we're going to be waiting completely on Eruption here. Canceling it out at the last second as they realize that they mistimed it just by a few milliseconds. But of course they do still end up going and getting it. Jesus. You know, I don't have any water to drink, so honestly my voice is very dry. But Otto to 8 seconds now going to be taking chase, and actually at the final second is going to give Colin his tier 3. Now Colin does need distance to make use of it, however, meaning that they are going to have to get very close to our survivor here, and now breaking this door. They're definitely going to get that distance required, but now they're going to be going around just to see if they can maybe fake them out. He's going to be holding the check spot, and he's going to be using it efficiently, as they're not going to be giving him any easier of a time, but they are completely zoned, and they're not going to be making this pallet, as the pallet was unfortunately broken, meaning that Otto to 8 seconds will be going down here, as he's instantly downed, and the use of Eruption is going to go down on that courtyard gen, meaning that they're not going to be able to pop it. Not just yet. Oh my lord, but now they're going to be running back to it to tap it. A big mistake, as now Otto is going to be hooked, and not dead on hook just yet, but every single survivor left in the game has just one more state to be used. They do have Pop Goes the Weasel, and it does seem like, yeah, I'm pretty sure a teammate did end up just saying that they did tap that gen, meaning that they should wait, not only in that, but also Eruption. As now Eruption is going to be affected on that generator, and Pop Goes the Weasel is going to make sure that everything there goes down completely. There's the second use of Eruption, as it's going to be kicked and affecting that generator. We're going to be seeing the save coming through from Corrosive, which is going to be a big mistake, as now Corrosive is actually going to be in a very tough spot with a good amount of tier 3 left. A quick hit take from Otto is going to get Corrosive out of that sticky situation there at the window, but they are still going to be in a very tough spot, as they're going to be holding this check spot completely and trying to use it to their advantage. But are they going to be able to do it correctly? Colin does get stuck there, but unfortunately not going to be doing that. Window Wall is going to lose the 50-50 and is now going to unfortunately go down, as Corrosive is going to give another Pop Goes the Weasel to Colin. Oh, Lord. Colin checking back up on these generators. This might just be a 4K2, as I did anticipate. The survivors did bring a lot of pressure to these generators, but unfortunately now running out of tier 2, meaning that this killer is going to go to... Oh, that was a very good pre-drop on Senza's side, but this is not going to result in anything good for Colin. This right now is just a chase to try and waste as much time as possible using the sprint burst. Oh, I don't even think that was sprint burst. I don't even think that was anything else to begin with. In fact, that actually proved... No, that was just life. The very, very last few seconds of life getting them that distance. But now, switching off of Zenza, we're going to go ahead and chase Otto into complete dead zone, meaning that this is actually going to be the down. And both survivors being found here is going to be an amazing opportunity for Compassion. But now they have a completely different chance to completely split up, as an amazing Dead Hard was used, meaning that we're going to be going back to this pallet, which has not been dropped, but he needs to win 150-50, just one. And unfortunately, they make use of it. You gotta be kidding me, as that use of distance was not life or anything else but Dead Hard. And instead, life was on Otto, but still, we are going to slug and actually find Senza, who is going to be in the mending status effect, that meaning that they're going to be losing a lot of visual prowess here against this killer. Especially against a killer that only has a red stain to their name and does not have anything else. But unfortunately, due to not having anything to use, Senza is going to go down, and Colin is going to go back towards where they downed Otto to 8 seconds, meaning that there is no opportunity for a bleed out, not like the very first match, and this is going to be ending quickly with a 4K2 result for Compassion, meaning that we might potentially see the tiebreaker here, as Compassion is definitely bringing way too much heat to Twisted Catalyst. An amazing first match on their end, but of course, Compassion did not let their victory go too long without being pressured. Seems like they did have to end up dropping Senza, as they do not want any chance for Senza to get away with this hatch, as they are potentially going to wiggle out. And we do find the hatch here, meaning that Colin did go the right direction of right side towards 12, or should I say top side towards 12, considering that this is actually where we are now. Wait, am I wrong? Is red room 6 and dark room is 12? probably is. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. There is a lot of difference in comps from multiple different teams. But with that being said, a 4K2 result, like I said, for Colin and Compassion. We're going to be seeing the wiggle out here from Senza as now Colin is trying to desperately bring him to the hook, but there is not enough time or wiggle bar to work out for him. We're now going to be seeing the final chase of Senza using the room that has literally never been touched this entire match. Colin is going to swing to the pallet to try and hit Senza, but is not going to be able to, and is actually going to win a quick 50-50 by moonwalking directly into Senza. Very well played by Colin. Definitely earning his team with his skill, knowledge, and perks of choice. Very well played. But now it is up to Twisted Catalyst to bring the exact same heat with a win condition of 4K3 to take this home with 2-0 against Compassion, but that will definitely be difficult with how experienced these survivors are. We did unfortunately not see their experience versus the Trapper, but versus an M1 killer where they could very easily starve and very easily punish any little mistake that the killer makes. This is definitely not going to be an easy match, ladies and gentlemen, and the perks are definitely going to come into question. But with that being said, this has been it for the very first match of Set 2 here at Dead by Trials with Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst. We'll be seeing the second match here with Twisted Catalyst on Survivors, or sorry, say Killers and Compassion on Survivors. I swapped it around completely. GG's to both sides as we'll now be moving into our intermission to the next match. And these hopefully short messages. We are here now and live back at the Dead by Trials. We're going to be seeing Compassion versus Twisted Catalyst back at it again with the very second match of the second set, as we are now going to be loading into the very last match here at Dead by Trials. We're actually going to be seeing the exact same killer, of course, since this is a mirror match. What would I expect? As we're going to be seeing her. No changes in scores whatsoever. Yucky. Oh well. But with a score of the very previous match being, oh lord, we actually just found a survivor. Going to be chased here at 11A on the locker room, but is not going to see giving the killer any stock whatsoever. Not just yet, as we're actually going to be seeing a struggle for this stock. 28 on the side of Compassion and 6 for Twisted Catalyst. A very, very, very normal, or should I say, performance for something that we did end up seeing earlier. Double backing into the killer, going to be giving him tier 2 right now. He's probably going to be taking a tag very early on, considering how Braxel's not actually going to be going for the tag, but instead going to be going for the stock. This Panda's just going to be getting as long as of a chase as possible to waste this killer's time and not giving them all the stock that they want. I do like what I'm seeing here with these add-ons, but it could very easily work against these survivors and against the killer as well. But we'll go ahead and see how that ends up working out. It does seem like Abraxel's actually going to be leaving the survivor completely, as they did end up just running out of stock. Might have just given it away, in my opinion. Now going to be dropping, or going up and now dropping down once more to go ahead and find these survivors. A lot of progress here on the middle of the map, and we do end up seeing another survivor, but it does seem like Abraxel's not going to have enough distance to go ahead and chase that. So they are honestly, I would honestly do the same thing and not commit to that completely. Just grab a little bit of stock and of course move ours to a different side of the map. And it does seem like, with that being said, there is a difference here. Seeing a bunch of progress on top of this generator, but it does seem like there's nobody around. Not just yet, as Abraxel's actually not going to kick the gen and instead going to be pressuring it and looking around to see if they can maybe potentially find the survivor that was working here earlier, but they're not seeing anyone. Not just yet, of course. First hit of the game is going to pop, and we're not going to be seeing quite literally anything from either of these survivors. A lot of progress coming off here with this stock from Winter Edit, taking the chase of time. A lot of notifications going off right now. That's going to be the second gen of the game popping, and of course, I'm not going to lie, this is a very, very slow game for this killer, and it does seem like with just one more gen pop, this might potentially lead to something detrimental, as now tier 3 is going to pop and actually reveal the true power of what they have. And of course, no one knows, not just yet. It is a complete mystery to both the killer, or not, to the killer and survivors, to be honest, because I just realized now, will the killer get value out of any of this? Santa's going to be pre-dropping this pallet, still probably not knowing that he has infinite tier 3, but it would be safe for them to assume, considering how long that these survivors have taken to get stocked and be given tier 3 in the first place. Seeing Spies in the Shadows getting a little bit of value and showing Abraxel where these players have gone to, but we still do not know where they have gone. This Hamster's actually going to be completely going into a locker, as it is expected that the killer has Tombstone tier 3. What? But I mean, we can see it here. He does not have Tombstone at all. Third gen of the game is going to pop, and tie result has instantly been met, but we do not have any result close to what we originally intended whatsoever. Trying to mind game, going back to hook to see if they can catch the survivor off guard, but of course that call is made by the survivor on the hook, meaning that they will not be faked out just yet. Not at all, completely. I'm surprised with the amount of communication and the amount of patience that is coming through from this survivor alone. Maybe 5th time's the charm, as we're going to be double backing once more and still not going to be getting that tier 3 hit on to Hampter. But it just seemed like they finally started committing to it, as they did end up just seeing them to drop. As now the chase is going to go to this survivor who's working at the edge map and is actually going to be running out in the middle of the open, but is not going to be committing to them at all whatsoever, as we're actually going to be committing to Colin, who was over here and is now going to be vaulted on top of. They still have a lot of distance to work with here, meaning that they could potentially make it to a pallet, but they are just going to be forcing the locker to not get downed instantly or killed by the tombstone that is still non-existent, because I don't know why these guys are just giving up their chases to survive this far ahead. Oh well, not my place to judge, ladies and gentlemen. But with that being said, this could also potentially give us a bit of slowdown. I do not understand why you would be running no way out in a situation where you do have to kind of 4K. Probably wasn't thought out too well, but of course, still a good opportunity and a good chance. No saves, but a bunch of notifications are going off, meaning that there's not only somebody going to be pressuring Hook with spies from the shadows, but there's also going to be somebody working on the generator. There we go, as now we're going to be starting chase. Was here somebody at the solo L wall. I'm honestly kind of confused why they would put this like this, but oh lord, an amazing dodge from whoever that was. Jesus, Hampter going over for an amazing small little bit of chase there. I gotta say, that was pretty impressive. Well played. Now going to be chasing Panda at the L wall still, but not going to be chasing Hampter like we did originally. Going to be instantly forcing the locker just to focus on getting through with that. I'm kind of surprised that that did end up going out the way it was, but of course, that is their decision to make. Quick hook onto Panda, but also an instant save, as that we're actually seeing someone else who's going to be Colin now taking chase at 12 once more. An instant drop from Panda once more, trying to avoid that tier 3, but the tier 3 is not there. It's non-existent. It's not even there. It's not even in the equation at this point. But of course, the fear of the survivors is still way too powerful and is still going to pressure them into thinking that it is existent. I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't believe it myself, but of course it would be very scary, seeing as this person has not run out of tier 3 yet, but they have still reached their win condition, meaning that this is very much a very easy. Oh, good hesitation there performed by the survivors. Still chasing, and actually going to be leaving chase from Hampter to Colin and popping the final gen. That's going to be the use of adrenaline. I do believe that that was also a bit of unlucky. Oh, and now they realize that they've been giving up hooks, as Braxel's not going to be taking that down. Or sorry, that kill, as they do not have Tombstone to begin with, and is instead going to be grabbed and put on the hook. Jeez, what a scare. And Compassion now realizes that they were being paranoid the entire time. Oh, some good well-played loops here as well. We're going to actually be seeing two survivors pressured, but Braxel's going to be going back for the kill. It's worrying. A good use of these kicks here, breaking these doors to try and zone out the survivor, but it does seem like Abraxel's not going to have much to do, as this is unfortunately a loss for the side of Twisted Catalyst, who played well despite all the pressure that was given to them from Compassion. But Compassion did end up just being a very experienced team and showing their strengths in a better set where they couldn't have potentially been completely demolished. Not like how they did on Trapper. For some reason, going upstairs into the 3rd floor and not seeing anybody there was definitely a scare for this survivor. Sorry, survivor. I keep saying that. Killer. For this killer. There's a lot of progress on this generator, and with everybody running there, it's going to be a 4 out for the survivors. I'm not going to lie. Very, very unexpected game. Still well played by both sides, especially with such a difficult match ahead of them. Abraxel still put their heart into it, but just unfortunately could not cut it. But that is going to end it here for Dead by Trials, as now we're going to be entering our very final scene and seeing our very final score, as it is going to be given to us by our ref. Let's go ahead and see what it actually is. I'm sending the alert out to our ref to see what is it. Oh, oh my lord. I'm very surprised. This game alone was 17-16. Not this set. This game alone was 17-16. The overall score will be given to us in just a second, and the very final score will be given to us very shortly as well. But we will be here just waiting for that until we have our confirmation, listening to this music, which by then, the stream will end soon. Of course, we will see you guys in just a second here with the actual final score. So see you then. Here we are with the actual final score and the very finality of this stream here at Dead by Trials, brought to you here Buyer Caster Sco, and thank you to our ref Marina, who also did come here and help us out with the score, and of course overseeing the games, making sure that the game was properly played and under the rule set. So thank you to them, and of course thank you all for watching, as the final score of Twisted Catalyst versus Compassion is going to be 22 to 45 of this set alone, meaning that with everything adding up, Compassion will take the win against Twisted Catalyst. Although Twisted Catalyst did have a very amazing first match, unfortunately they were not able to pull it out in the second, and due to the overall score, this is going to make the point difference just in the favor of Compassion. Thank you all for watching. I was your caster Sco, and of course this has been